Hi guys, this is Sarah Norris
And Carrie Eink, occupational therapist at the Star Institute.
and we just want to thank everyone who watched our video last week. We're trying to make this a regular thing to answer some questions that we get frequently about adolescents and adults with sensory processing challenges. And this week we're going to try and tackle the subject of meltdowns, sensory meltdowns.
That was one question we got in the comments, and we think it's such an important one to talk about. Are sensory meltdowns a real thing in adolescence and adulthood? Do they exist? What do they look like? Can we treat them? So that's what we're going to talk about today.
And to try and make this as brief as possible, sensory meltdowns can look really different in different individuals. But what it comes down to is it's a protective response. It's reflexive. It's something that you just can't control. It's not something that you're doing to be controlling or manipulative. It's truly a reflexive wiring from your senses or going straight to your brainstem and saying, I'm in danger, I need to do something to protect myself.
Yeah, many people know of it as the fight, flight, or fright response. It's been around since the beginning of time. Hunter-gatherers used to use it to fight off prey, and what we know about SPD is that individuals experience this much more often than neurotypical individuals.
And we're primarily talking about individuals that have sensitivities. There are other forms of sensory processing challenges that this isn't as prevalent, but if you're a sensitive individual, this is something that you are probably familiar with. And what we want to let you know is that it's real, it does happen, and it's out of your control. And I think a lot of times we're taught through society, through people around us, that it's not okay. And truly, the behaviors can be inappropriate. Like, it's not okay to harm yourself or other people or property. But when you're in that state that you're completely out of control, you're not able to stop yourself. And that's where it's really uncomfortable, because afterwards you might feel really bad about how you behaved. It's hard to explain to other people why you snapped. And especially if you don't know or understand your sensory triggers very well, it can feel like they come out of the blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so another big question, is there a way to help these? Is there a way to decrease these? And so this is something that you might be able to start thinking about on your own, or it might be something you can work with an occupational therapist on. But what occupational therapy in adulthood looks like when treating sensory meltdowns is kind of thinking about the external world. Usually by adulthood you get really good at identifying all of those threatening experiences in the external world. But then as a result, you are thinking less about your internal world. And what is my body telling me? Is my body starting to feel scared, nervous, aggravated, aggressive?
And when you start to have those uncomfortable feelings, you might get a little bit agitated. You might start showing some warning signs that a meltdown is coming, but you may not always be aware of it. And so one of the approaches that we take when we're working with someone who has these meltdowns is, how can we find those warning signs and know that it's coming? And instead of going from 0 to 60 and only recognizing when you're at 60 and you're losing it, of actually figuring out when you're at 45 and you might still be able to go back and get back under control. And it's something that you can definitely work on with a therapist or even without, to just identify what are your triggers, what are the things that help calm you down, how do you make sure you have things to calm you when you know you might be going into a situation that's really challenging for you, and as a last resort, how do you get out of a situation when it's really too much and you feel like you're not going to be able to stay under control.
Yeah, so it's kind of a process, like we were talking about. If you have additional questions or if you're wanting more information, we'll post a link to our adult page of our information so you can get in touch with us in the comments below.
And definitely let us know if you have some personal stories even that maybe you've learned personally about how meltdowns have affected you and how you've learned to cope. Because we know that sharing your own experience makes it so helpful for other people to first of all realize I'm not alone, this is something that's real, but they can also learn from what you've learned. There might be other people out there that have the same triggers as you and need the same strategies that you've been able to identify. So we want to encourage there to be a community that if you're kind of along this path and you've actually worked through meltdown issues before, there are people that are still just identifying that it's a problem for them and they want to start somewhere. And so I think it would be really beneficial if you could share that with us.
Yeah, thanks for all your feedback, guys. We look forward to hearing more.